One of Sii Ali's army commanders and provincial governors was Muhammad Toure. He was a righteous Muslim who had objected to Sii Ali's brutal treatment of Muslims in Timbuktu. After Sii Ali died, Muhammad Toure challenged Sii Baaru for the leadership of the Songhai Empire. In 1493, after 2 fierce and bloody battles, Muhammad Toure removed Sii Baaru, the son of Sii Ali, and became the king of the Songhai. Askia was a rank in the Songhai army, with origins dating from at least the first half of the 13th century. Muhammad Toure took this title as the name of his new dynasty. From that time on, all the kings of the Songhai Empire were referred to as Askia. As one of the greatest of the Songhai rulers, Askia Muhammad Toure strengthened and extended the empire that had begun to take shape under Sii Ali. He came to be known as Muhammad the Great and created a professional full-time army and built up the Songhai cavalry. He expanded the Songhai control far beyond the territories of the Middle Niger and the inland delta waterways that had been conquered by Sii Ali Beeri. Under Askia Muhammad, the Songhai Empire established lands in which the kings paid tribute. These extended northwards to the salt pans of Tagaza in the Sahara Desert, westward to many of the former territories of the Mali Empire, and eastwards to the Tuareg kingdom of Agadez. The empire grew so large that its army was divided into 2 parts. One for the western provinces based in Timbuktu and one for the eastern provinces based in Gao. 2 17th century Timbuktu chronicles name 37 sons that Askia Muhammad had with various wives and concubines. A concubine is a woman who is supported by a man and lives with him without being legally married to him. The practice of concubinage, or the harem, was done by several kings of different empires in the world: the Abbasid Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Mughal Empire, and so on. Askia Muhammad Toure might have even had more children than that. The total number of his male and female children is said to have been around 471. The sons were mostly half-brothers, related only through their father. These rival brothers, as they were called, did not have the kind of close attachment to one another that might be felt by brothers who had the same mother, known as milk brothers. As these rival brothers grew up, they became involved in bloody power struggles. When Askia Muhammad Toure was about 70 years old, he found it difficult to control his sons. He was physically weak, and they pressured him to retire so that one of them could become the emperor, or Askia. The royal courts of the Songhai became a dangerous place for Askia Muhammad, even though the rebels were his own sons. The oldest of his sons living in Gao was Musa. He was the leader of the brothers who were trying to bring about a change in rulership. At this time, Ali Fulan, master of the royal household, would not allow anyone to see Askia Muhammad Toure in person. This further angered Musa. What the sons did not know was that Ali Fulan was hiding the fact that Askia Muhammad Toure had gone blind. Finally, in 1529, Musa publicly demanded that the power be given to him. The elderly and blind Askia Muhammad had no powerful supporters, so he gave in to his son and stepped down as king. Musa became the Askia of Songhai, although his father lived another 10 years. Once Musa became king, he started killing his rival brothers one by one. Many fled to Walata, Timbuktu, and other towns. The killing continued for 2 years until 1531. Then some of the surviving brothers joined together and killed Askia Musa in a bloody battle. The reign of Askia Musa lasted only 2 years and 8 months. After killing Askia Musa, the brothers returned to Gao. They expected their leader to be the next Askia, but when they got there, they found their cousin Muhammad Bonkanka already sitting on the throne. Askia Bonkanka is remembered for creating the Songhai court with splendid furnishings, introducing new kinds of musical instruments, and providing his courtiers with imported clothing. He humiliated the daughters of Askia Muhammad by forcing them to appear at courts with their faces uncovered. According to their Muslim beliefs, this showed that the sisters were impure. Askia Bonkanka further insulted Askia Muhammad and all his sons by having the court's storyteller continually repeat that, quote, a single ostrich chick is better than 100 hen chicks, unquote. Everyone knew this meant the son of Umar, Komadiaha, Bonkanke's father, is worthy more than 100 sons of Askia Muhammad. When Askia Bonkanka took power, Askia Muhammad was still living in the royal palace, but Askia Bonkanka sent him to be imprisoned on a mosquito-infested island in the Niger River near the city. Askia Bonkanka had been friends with Ismail, one of Askia Muhammad's sons, since childhood. Ismail had fled when Musa started killing all his brothers. Now Askia Bonkanka wanted his cousin to join him in Gao. However, because Ismail actually had a stronger claim to the throne, Askia Bonkanka was concerned for his own safety. So, when Ismail arrived, the king had him swear on the Quran that Ismail would never betray him. As an extra precaution, Askia Bonkanka had his daughter Fatih marry Ismail, so his cousin was now also his son-in-law. One night, Ismail went to visit his father, where he was imprisoned. The blind man took hold of his son's arm and asked him why, with such strong arms, he was leaving his father to be eaten by mosquitoes and croaked at by frogs. Ismail replied that he had no power to do anything, but his father convinced him to contact powerful allies who would help. In 1537, while Askia Bonkanka was away on a military campaign, Ismail overthrew him. Askia Ismail released his father from the island and brought him back to the palace. In gratitude, Askia Muhammad Toure the Great presented Askia Ismail with a ceremonial clothing that went with the high Muslim office of Caliph, a green robe, green cap, white turban, and the Arabian sword that Muhammad had been given on pilgrimage to Mecca when he was the Askia. Muhammad lived into his 90s and died in 1538 during Askia Ismail's reign. Askia Ismail reigned for 2 years and 9 months and died a natural death in November 1539. When the leading men of the Songhai Empire heard about Askia Ismail's death, they peacefully agreed that the next Askia would be Ishaq, another son of Muhammad the Great. Of all the Askias, it was Askia Ishaq who inspired the most fear and anxiety among the Songhai people. Despite being a devout Muslim, Askia Ishaq regularly sent agents to Timbuktu to demand large sums of money from the merchants. Islam prohibits bribery and demands for money. Fearing for their lives, nobody dared complain. The amount of money demanded was so great that it damaged the economic prosperity of the Songhai Empire and gained Askia Ishaq many enemies. He began to fear that he would be overthrown. Anyone who was suspected of opposing him was quickly dismissed or killed. In 1549, when it became known that Askia Ishaq was dying, his brother Daud went to visit a Songhai sorcerer called a Sohanshi. Some people believe that the Sohanshi worked a magic spell that eliminated Daud's chief rival. Whether or not this is true, Daud became the next Askia. Together with Sii Ali Beeri and Askia Muhammad, Askia Daud is remembered as the third of the Songhai Empire's greatest rulers. The empire remained stable and prosperous under his rule. Up to this time, all of the Askias had been the sons of Muhammad, with the exception of Muhammad Bonkanka, who was a nephew. Many other sons of Askia Muhammad had held high offices and titles. During the 34-year reign of Askia Daud, as these important offices became vacant, he usually appointed his own sons to the positions. In this way, Askia Daud gradually eliminated from high office the descendants of the other sons of Askia Muhammad. From Askia Daud's time forward, all the Askias were his descendants. Nevertheless, after his death in 1582, warfare broke out among the brothers competing for power. The winner was Askia Muhammad al-Hajj. He is notably different from the other Songhai rulers because he never organized a military campaign. Soon after he took power, he developed a painful medical condition on the lower part of his body that kept him from leading his troops. He also never killed any of his brothers, but after nearly 4.5 years, they became impatient with his poor health. In 1586, Askia al-Hajj was replaced by his brother, Muhammad Bani. Al-Hajj died soon thereafter. When Muhammad Bani became Askia, one of his brothers complained that the most foolish of their brother's sons had become ruler. This brother and several others who had agreed with him were killed by Muhammad Bani as soon as he was in power. During Askia Bani's reign, the town of Kabara was the scene of the events that led to a civil war. This war eventually spelled disaster for the Songhai Empire. Kabara is Timbuktu's port on the Niger River. Two of the most powerful men in Songhai lived there. One was Alu, the chief of the port, and the other was Muhammad Sadiq, the military commander. Sadiq was a son of Askia Daud and was popular with the leading men of Timbuktu. Alu was an officer in service of Askia Bani. The Timbuktu historian Ibn al-Mukhtar describes Alu as an oppressor and a stubborn tyrant. In 1588, Alu whipped and jailed one of Sadiq's men. Sadiq responded by killing Alu. Sadiq took all of Alu's property and declared a revolt against Askia Bani. Accompanied by other Songhai commanders, Sadiq began to march the army towards Gao. The Songhai historian Abdurrahman Asadi, in his Tarihin Sudan, History of the Sudan, wrote that when the Askia heard they were coming, he said, "May God curse kinship, for it is the source of humiliation and degradation." Askia Bani set out from Gao with his army to battle with Sadiq and stopped in the midway to take a nap. The Askia was overweight and was wearing a cloak of chainmail, an armor made of closely linked metal wires. During the hottest part of the day, when his servants came to wake him to get ready for the midday prayer, he found him dead of a heart attack. The next descendant of Askia Daud to take the throne was Ishaq. He became known as Askia Ishaq II. His immediate problem was that the people of Timbuktu were still loyal to Sadiq. With Askia Bani now dead, Sadiq wanted to overthrow the new Askia and grab power for himself. Sadiq's army swore loyalty to him and were therefore in revolt against Askia Ishaq II. Sadiq was so popular with the people of Timbuktu that they held a celebration in his honor that included beating drums on the rooftops of the buildings in Timbuktu. When Askia Ishaq II learned what was happening, the armies of Timbuktu and Gao met in battle. Sadiq was defeated, and he and all of the Songhai Empire who had joined him in his rebellion were captured and put to death. There were so many executions that Songhai lost many of its finest military commanders. Hundreds of soldiers on both sides had also been killed in the battle. Askia Ishaq II appointed new commanders, but he could not replace the dead troops. Sadiq's rebellion had caused the loss of a large portion of the Songhai army. At the end of 1590, Askia Ishaq II received news that an army from Morocco was on its way to attack Songhai. He assembled his newly appointed commanders to discuss plans for their defense against the Moroccan threat, but they could not agree on a strategy, and so Songhai was not prepared to meet the approaching invaders. If you enjoyed the video, like and comment on the channel's videos, and if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.